Walk into pretty much any Australian boardroom in 2026, right? And executives will tell you straight up their data is their most valuable asset.
Oh, without a doubt. It's the standard line.
Yeah. But then you actually look in their server room, and that supposedly priceless asset is, well, it's often being managed by this incredibly outdated infrastructure, just quietly draining hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Right. It's like this invisible plumbing that, nobody really wants to look at.
Exactly. Nobody looks at it until like a pipeline bursts or your revenue generating apps just grind to a halt or you wake up to a massive compliance breach.
So welcome to all the C9 followers joining us for this special deep dive. I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera.
And we've crafted this session specifically for you, the Australian business owners and C-level executives who are, navigating the really harsh operational realities of the 2026 landscape.
Yeah, it's a tough environment out there right now. It really is. So our mission today is to unpack a critical, newly released 2026 cost-benefit analysis. We're looking directly at the hard numbers, the real cost of maintaining an in-house database team versus, shifting to outsourced professional management.
Because legacy database infrastructure it's acting as a massive silent budget drain for literally thousands of Australian businesses right now.
Yeah. And we're going to walk through the exact analytical framework you need to make a strategic choice and basically stop that bleeding.
The scale of that budget drain is just glaringly obvious when you look at the macro environment. The 2026 market projections show IT spending in Australia exceeding $172 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. And an incredibly disproportionate chunk of that is just operational overhead. Like, businesses are losing capital every single month to management models that were built, a decade ago.
Right.
They just don't realize the extent of the loss until they step back and run a true, unvarnished total cost of ownership analysis.
Well, let's start right there, actually, with the six-figure elephant in the server room. Because before we can evaluate any alternatives, we really have to forensically examine what's actively eating away at those IT budgets today.
Oh, absolutely. The numbers are sobering.
They really are. The source material pulls from the latest 2026 employment data from Robert Half and Seek. And look, if you're trying to build a tech team, if you are hiring a dedicated database administrator, a DBA, in Australia right now, the average base salary is sitting anywhere from 120,000 to 155,000 Australian dollars.
Just for the base.
Just the base. And if you're in Sydney or Melbourne and you need a mid-level professional for complex architecture, you're easily looking at 144,000 to over $152,000.
And see, that's the fatal flaw in most internal corporate budgeting, is that they stop the calculation at that base salary.
Right. They just see the sticker price.
Exactly. An executive sees a $145,000 figure and allocates exactly that amount.
Right.
But that completely ignores the hidden multipliers embedded in this 2026 employment landscape.
Hidden multipliers.
Yeah. The baseline cost of employing human capital has shifted so much. We now have the mandatory 12% superannuation guarantee that went into full effect back in July 2025.
Which is huge.
It is. That instantly adds a massive structural cost before the employee even logs in on their first day.
And then, you layer on state payroll taxes, which generally run between, 4.75 and 5.45%, depending on your jurisdiction.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's still assuming you already have the person sitting in the chair. Like, the data shows recruitment fees are currently running between $10,000 and $25,000.
And let's be really clear about what that recruitment fee actually represents. It isn't just, handing a check to an agency.
Right.
It reflects this grueling, multi-month process of filtering candidates. It's the lost productivity of your senior execs who have to sit in on technical interviews, and the HR overhead of onboarding.
It's exhausting. And when you aggregate all those interconnected factors, the base, the 12% super, the payroll tax, the $25,000 recruitment hurdle, specialized software licenses.
Oh, and annual leave loading?
Yes. Annual leave loading, plus the inevitable operational slowdown during the months that the seat is empty. The true total cost of ownership for a single in-house database administrator just explodes.
It really does. The real-world cost easily surpasses $180,000 to well over $230,000 annually for one person.
Over $230,000 for one seat. Thinking about it in those terms, hiring a solo in-house DBA in 2026 It feels a lot like buying a highly temperamental, ultra-luxury vehicle.
Okay, I like this. Walk me through it.
Well, you buy the car, right? But that initial sticker price is really just the cover charge. The vehicle constantly needs incredibly expensive proprietary fuel to run.
Right.
It requires specialized diagnostic tools just to, check the tire pressure. And the biggest catch is that you have to keep this one highly specialized, insanely expensive mechanic on retainer.
Oh, yeah.
A mechanic who is literally the only person on Earth who knows what that weird rattling sound in the engine means.
That's so accurate.
So, as a business owner, you hit a tipping point where you have to ask yourself, does it actually make financial sense to own the car and pay the mechanic? Or should I just hire a premium, all-inclusive chauffeur service?
The chauffeur service that guarantees you arrive at your destination smoothly every time.
Exactly. Every single time for a fraction of the total cost.
See, the fascinating, kind of terrifying mathematical reality behind that luxury mechanic analogy is that even if an organization clears the budget for that $230,000 line item,
Yeah.
they likely cannot find the personnel anyway.
Wait, really?
Yeah. We are navigating an absolutely massive digital skills gap in Australia right now. The national shortfall is projected at over 370,000 tech professionals by the end of 2026.
370,000, that's insane.
It's massive. Data and database experts are firmly entrenched on the critical national shortage list. The supply simply does not exist to meet enterprise demand.
So that means a mid-sized logistics company or a retailer might have that DBA vacancy sitting open for 6 or 7 months.
Easily.
And the remaining IT staff gets stretched completely thin, trying to cover the database management on top of their actual jobs.
Which is a recipe for disaster. They burn out, their primary projects stall, and eventually they quit too. It creates this vicious cycle of turnover.
And desperation in hiring has to become the next major financial risk then, right?
Oh, absolutely. The analysis specifically highlights that the cost of a single bad hire in this highly technical space often reaches into the 6 figures.
6 figures for a bad hire.
Yeah, because if you rush a hire just to get a warm body in the seat, you aren't just paying their salary. You're absorbing the cost of lost productivity, the compounding errors of their knowledge gaps.
Right, because they don't know the system.
Exactly. And the massive expense of bringing in emergency consultants to fix the architecture they broke while trying to learn your systems.
Which introduces the other major pressure cooker the research points to, the tech treadmill. Because technology isn't hitting the pause button while a company spends 6 months trying to hire someone.
No, it's accelerating.
The 2026 landscape is dominated by AI-optimized databases, fully autonomous cloud platforms, and incredibly dense compliance frameworks. I mean, we're talking about the Notifiable Data Breaches Scheme, the NDB, and the Australian Privacy Principles, the APPs.
Yeah.
And a company is essentially expecting one solo in-house employee to master all of these entirely different, rapidly evolving disciplines simultaneously.
It creates an impossible mandate. You're forcing one human being to act as a deep-level security expert, a cloud infrastructure architect, a real-time performance tuner, and a legal compliance officer.
It's too much for one person.
Way too much.
Yeah.
No single professional can stay current across all those specialized domains without constant, highly expensive upskilling, which, by the way, takes them away from their day-to-day operational duties anyway.
Okay, but let me push back on that premise for a moment.
Sure.
If we're operating in 2026 and we have all these advanced AI tools making databases, smarter and autonomous, shouldn't the technology actually be making the job easier?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Shouldn't AI be drastically reducing the pressure on an internal IT team?
Well, AI is incredibly effective at automating routine, isolated tasks, like deploying a standard security patch or running a basic indexing operation.
Okay.
But what AI cannot do is understand the bespoke, 15-year-old custom code that powers your specific warehouse management system.
Ah, right.
Implementing and governing AI tools is vastly more complicated than managing a static database. Think of AI in this context like a brilliant, lightning-fast stock trader.
Okay, I'm following.
This trader can process billions of data points and execute trades in milliseconds, potentially making you a fortune. But they are completely reckless.
They need supervision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless you have a highly seasoned human risk management officer constantly auditing their moves, that AI trader might execute a perfectly logical transaction that accidentally bankrupts the entire company.
Oh, wow.
Right. If an AI optimization drops a critical foreign key constraint that your legacy ERP system relies on, your entire supply chain goes dark.
And the regulatory fines for that kind of disaster don't get handed to the algorithm.
Nope. They go right to the C-suite.
Because if that supply chain outage exposes customer records, under the NDB scheme, you're facing mandatory public disclosures, massive corporate fines, and reputational damage. So the AI might be powerful, but it requires a significantly higher tier of governance and integration expertise.
And auditing, which a solo, stretched thin DBA simply does not have the bandwidth to provide. The complexity hasn't disappeared. It's fundamentally shifted up the chain.
That makes total sense.
And this is why the Australian market is aggressively transitioning toward a completely different model. The independent data shows a massive structural shift toward outsourced professional database management.
Right, managed services.
Exactly. Australia's managed services market is experiencing significant compound annual growth. It's projected to expand between 6.6 and 11.6% through to 2033.
So it's not just a trend.
Not at all. It's evolved from a simple cost-cutting measure into a strategic necessity for survival. Organizations are realizing they have to replace rigid, high-risk overhead with flexible, expert-driven infrastructure.
And the head-to-head contrast in the source material is really stark. I mean, in a traditional in-house setup, your entire company's data capability is bottlenecked by the limited skills of one or two people, and their coverage typically ends when the clock strikes 5.
Right. 5 p.m. hits and you're on your own.
But when you pivot to an outsourced model, you instantly gain access to a deep bench of certified specialists. You're plugging into an entire team with specialized knowledge across completely different environments.
Yes, from legacy Oracle setups to modern open-source relational structures like PostgreSQL.
Complex cloud-native architectures.
And the exact AI integration governance we were just talking about. Instead of crossing your fingers and hoping the server doesn't crash while your sole DBA is on a 2-week vacation,
which happens all the time.
you get proactive, 24/7 monitoring.
And the financial impact of that pivot is where the business case really solidifies, because comprehensive industry analysis reveals that organizations transitioning to an outsourced or hybrid management model typically reduce their operational and labor-related costs by 30 to 60%.
30 to 60%, that is huge compared to running a fully in-house operation.
It's massive. You're achieving a huge reduction in your total cost of ownership while simultaneously unlocking enterprise-grade scalability. You pay a predictable monthly or annual fee, and the brutal recruitment cycles, the 12% superannuation hits, the training budget,
A sick leave coverage.
all of those volatile variables are just permanently removed from the balance sheet.
Exactly.
Okay, but I need to step in and play devil's advocate again on behalf of the C-suite listening right now.
Go for it.
A 60% cost reduction sounds phenomenal on a spreadsheet, right? But we established at the start that data is a company's absolute most valuable asset. Doesn't outsourcing fundamentally mean we're handing over the keys to our most sensitive intellectual property to complete strangers?
A fair concern.
Right. In a landscape that's terrified of data breaches, doesn't outsourcing introduce a massive new security risk?
The instinct to hold data close is completely understandable, but holding it in-house often creates the exact vulnerability executives are trying to avoid.
How so?
Consider the reality of the traditional model. If you have one internal DBA who holds all the administrative passwords, understands the undocumented quirks of your custom applications, and, manually runs all your backups,
Yeah.
that individual is the ultimate single point of failure. If they get disgruntled and walk out the door or simply fall ill, they take all that institutional knowledge with them.
Oh, man. Your entire operational capability is instantly compromised.
Exactly. It's an illusion of control.
Mm-hmm.
You feel secure because they sit down the hall, but your entire business continuity is resting on the shoulders of one human being's daily availability.
That's a scary thought.
It is. But utilizing professional managed services eliminates that single point of failure entirely. You aren't handing data to strangers in the dark. You are entering into a rigorous, legally binding, service-level agreement with an organization of certified professionals.
Right. It's contractual.
And compliance frameworks like the APPs and data sovereignty requirements, they're baked into the very architecture of their service. They leverage enterprise-grade security protocols, automated threat detection, redundancy layers, stuff most mid-sized businesses simply cannot afford to build from scratch.
So you actually gain far more rigorous auditing, visibility, and contractual control than you would ever have relying on a single employee's manual oversight.
Precisely.
That represents a profound operational paradigm shift. It's the evolution from hoping one crucial employee never gets sick to utilizing a guaranteed, contractually obligated safety net that literally never sleeps.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the immediate practical application of this deep dive, because we want to provide the leaders listening with a concrete tool they can take into their next board meeting.
Yes, the 5-question decision framework from the source material.
Right. Think of this as a corporate triage system, like a diagnostic health check to determine if your current IT structure is secretly draining your organization's momentum.
It serves as a highly effective diagnostic baseline. Business leaders should really evaluate their current operations against these specific indicators.
Okay, so the first critical indicator is pure financial burn. Is your annual database-related spend already exceeding 150,000 to 200,000 Australian dollars once you honestly calculate all the hidden costs?
Including superannuation, payroll tax, recruitment fees, productivity losses.
Right. And for most organizations operating in 2026, the honest answer to that is a rapid yes.
Definitely. Which leads to the second indicator, directly addressing the talent squeeze. Are you currently struggling to recruit or retain DBA talent that actually possesses up-to-date specialized AI and cloud architecture expertise?
And given the 370,000 person skills gap we explored earlier, that is almost certainly another yes.
Yeah. And that operational friction leads to the third major vulnerability. Do you require 247 coverage and rapid incident response?
Which, I mean, if a business is running global e-commerce storefronts or managing international supply chains, relying on an in-house team that logs off at 5 p.m. creates a massive 60-hour window of extreme vulnerability every single weekend.
Modern commerce does not respect standard business hours.
It really doesn't. So the fourth question looks at capability rather than just risk. Are legacy database systems or fractured data silos actively limiting your executive team's ability to generate real-time insights and drive new revenue streams?
Are you missing market opportunities because your infrastructure is just too slow to process the data?
Exactly. And the final question in the framework gets to the very core of executive strategy. Would redirecting 30 to 40% of your current database management budget into customer-facing, growth-oriented initiatives actually move the needle for your business?
I mean, for who wouldn't it? The conclusion drawn by the industry analysis is incredibly definitive here. If an organization answers yes to 3 or more of those 5 diagnostic questions, maintaining a traditional, fully in-house database team is no longer mathematically or strategically justifiable.
Settling for those outdated legacy approaches is simply not viable for ambitious Australian organizations anymore. It all comes down to opportunity cost.
Absolutely.
Every $100,000 trapped in managing an inefficient server room is capital that isn't being deployed to acquire a new customer, develop a new product line, or expand into a new market.
Your database strategy must act as a catalyst that accelerates your entire business, not an anchor holding it down.
Well said. The empirical path forward really relies on a tailored, expert-led approach. Organizations require a model that inherently merges technological innovation with absolute reliability, enterprise security, and, of course, strict cost control.
Yeah, that's the holy grail.
And if you've realized today that the legacy in-house model is actively holding your operations back, the vital next step is finding a partner who intimately understands the mechanics of this 2026 landscape.
Which is key.
That is exactly why we are highlighting C9, Australia's leading custom software apps integration and database developer company.
They are the specialists partnering with business owners and executives to resolve this precise operational dilemma.
They don't just provide basic maintenance to keep the lights on. They strategically design, optimize, integrate, and future-proof your data infrastructure so it transforms into a genuine competitive advantage.
Because the goal is removing the operational friction that slows a company down. Business leaders do not need to navigate the crushing digital skills shortage, the relentless technology treadmill, or the terrifying compliance minefield in isolation.
No, they don't. It is time to stop letting that silent database overhead quietly erode your profitability. You have the hard numbers. You understand the true total cost of ownership and the compounding hidden multipliers.
You've seen the data.
Exactly. If you are ready to implement the model that drives operational efficiency, slashes your database management costs by up to 60%, and positions your enterprise for sustainable, aggressive growth, You need to engage the experts. Highly recommend it. Visit www.c9.com.au today to book a comprehensive, no-obligation consultation regarding your current environment. The team will demonstrate exactly how a custom, collaborative solution can deliver the high-level performance and security your business actually deserves.
It's definitely worth having that conversation.
Again, that is www.c9.com.au. Take that vital first step toward building a database strategy that works just as hard as you do.
And to all the executives, founders, and leaders who joined us today, please take a moment to click the follow button on our page. And just as importantly, share this podcast to those who can benefit from the knowledge.
Please do.
Every industry has a peer, a colleague, or a board member who urgently needs to see these numbers before their next budget review.
Absolutely. And just before you head into your next strategic planning session, consider this new paradigm. Your company's data is undeniably its most valuable asset. But look objectively at the infrastructure holding it.
Yeah, take a real look.
Is your database currently acting as a high-security museum? Are you paying an absolute fortune in guards, glass cases, and specialized curators just to keep the artifacts safe but entirely untouchable?
Wow, great analogy.
Or are you ready to finally shatter the glass, turn that museum into a high-performance engine, and use that data to actually drive your growth?
That is the defining strategic choice for Australian business leaders this year.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you on the next session.